Hi everyone, McGray DeVega here, Senior Pastor of Hyde Park United Methodist Church. And for the next several minutes, we want to share with you some great words of celebration, as well as some exciting announcements. There are lots of reasons to give thanks for what God has been doing through this church and to look forward to what God will do through this church in the future. We know this has been an incredibly unsettling year, and we have all needed to have extra compassion and patience and adaptation in the way we go about our daily lives. It is that spirit of adaptation that has been guiding us throughout our visioning process, which we started back in 2016. And thank God that we did. Our visioning process pushed us to ask important questions about our future and begin making adaptive changes in our church, even before the pandemic started. Little did we know that because of the implementation of our vision plan, God was preparing us to not only survive, but thrive during this pandemic. And to tell you more about how our vision plan came at just the right time, here is Rachel Burns, who has been one of our lay leaders.
After our vision plan was adopted in December 2018, we got right to work in January and created a vision implementation team, which was tasked with implementing new initiatives that would cover the entirety of our missional, programmatic, and organizational life. This new team solicited the help of over 80 staff and volunteers to form 12 different teams who spent most of 2019 studying and proposing ways to implement our vision. Little did we know that as we were working to implement our vision in 2019, God was preparing us to thrive in 2020 and even into the future. We created the Bible Project 2020, our year-long journey through the Bible, which engaged over 30 small groups and kept us together as a congregation week after week. For many people, reading the Bible together drew us closer to each other and to God at a time when we otherwise would have felt separated. We made staffing changes, including the hiring of a new executive director, Peggy Hyde, who has been vital in helping us navigate the many challenges of ministry during the pandemic. We partnered with a stewardship consultant to help analyze the health of our financial giving, and he was instrumental in helping us maintain and even improve the congregation's generosity during this season of economic uncertainty. We also brought in a worship consultant to help us develop a strategy for fulfilling the charge of the vision plan to strengthen and maximize our worship service offerings, to meet the needs of our current people, and more importantly, to reach out to new people for Jesus. These consultants were on board when the pandemic started and have helped us to create the kinds of worship services that have kept us together, as well as think about what worship can be like when we resume gathering on campus in person. And the results have been amazing. Because of our vision plan, we have emerged from 2020 widening the reach of God's love to people around the country and the world through worship and acts of mission. We grew deeper in our connection to God and to each other through the Bible. We united together in our efforts to make God's love real, ended the year with income over expenses, and charted new territory in the online digital world. In other words, we adapted in order to deepen, widen, and unite, just as our vision plan calls us to do.
Thank you, Rachel, and I know that each of you have many reasons to give thanks for what God has done for you through the ministries of Hyde Park. And thank you for being a part of making ministry happen. Now, that spirit of innovation and adaptation moves us into the future. And one of our newest frontiers of innovation is in our online worship service. And to tell us more about our exciting world of online worship, here is Matt Hotho, our Director of Worship Technology.
Before the pandemic, you may remember that our online worship service was nothing more than online surveillance of what was happening live. Now, our online service has gained wide attention for its excellent quality and its ability to engage the at-home viewer in the worship of God. Since the start of the pandemic, more people have been worshiping with us online than ever before. Our best estimates and analytics show us that our average worship attendance has remained consistent with, and at times even higher than attendance when we were worshiping on site. It has reached people all over the country and in 6 different continents. We moved our online worship to Church Online, a robust, interactive online platform that enables hosts to interact with people in real time, praying over prayer requests, registering attendance, and inviting others to watch along with them. Thanks to the creativity of our worship team and the amazing diligence of so many volunteers, our online services feature the best of who we are as a Hyde Park worshiping congregation. From traditional chancel choir music to the latest contemporary Christian music, the service touches on our broad diversity of worship styles. We have also incorporated families and individuals into worship in new ways, with people like yourselves reading the scripture and offering prayers right from the comfort of their own homes. This is a far cry from the kind of outdated surveillance camera live streaming that attracted only a few viewers each week. And the best news of all, our new and improved online service is not going away, even after the pandemic is over. It is here to stay as a part of our online worship schedule. We believe that it has the potential of creating and expanding a robust and healthy online worshiping congregation.
Our online worship services are one of the truly amazing innovations that have been birthed from this pandemic, grounded in our visioning process of widening the reach of God's love in the digital space, and will continue to be a part of who we are moving forward. Now let's talk about traditional worship and the exciting changes we have in store for Hyde Park that we are working on right now. Here is our Director of Traditional Music, Dr. Michael Dowry.
Traditional worship has long been a staple of the worship life at Hyde Park United Methodist. This has been the case since the earliest days, when a small group of members from the old First Church downtown gathered to sing "I Love to Tell the Story" on what would become the Hyde Park campus over 120 years ago. Today we have a beautiful sanctuary, renovated in the early 2000s, with the kind of sacred space that is conducive to traditional worship. When we do return to on-site worship, we look forward to resuming the use of traditional liturgies and orders of worship, and of course, beautiful sacred music. At first, as the effects of the pandemic ease, we may need to explore creative and effective ways to offer choral music in an indoor space. This may involve having smaller vocal ensembles spaced out in the chancel, or a hybrid use of live singers with video-recorded virtual choirs. We will continue to follow the latest health and science guidelines in knowing when it is safe to resume singing. We are excited about finally upgrading the video screens in the sanctuary, which have become outdated since they were installed 20 years ago. So replacing these with new, state-of-the-art screens will enable us to usher traditional worship into the modern day and enable people in the sanctuary to see, hear, and experience the kind of excellence that we are accustomed to.
And now we move to our contemporary service, which has been a part of our slate of worship offerings at Hyde Park for over 25 years. And over that time, many people have been drawn to this church and to the love of God, inspired by music that elicits joy and praise and celebration. And we're excited to share with you changes that will not only lift the spirits of people in our own congregation, but continue to draw new people into the church and introduce them to the joy of Jesus. To tell us about these changes, here's Colleen Schmidt, our Director of Contemporary Music.
One of the hallmarks of contemporary music at Hyde Park is its ability to adapt and stay current with modern sounds and styles. What we have discovered in this visioning process is that worship today is not just about the music and the order of service. It's also about the space. And you've seen this in our services during this quarantine. We want you to know that just as we've combined the contemporary, Magnolia, and Portico music teams as one to create those videos that you see in our online service, this is exactly what you'll see when we return, with Danny and Francesca there too. That's why we are so excited that the Ministry Leadership Council, composed of key lay and staff leaders, have decided to move our contemporary service into the Harnish Activity Center once it becomes safe for us to return to on-site worship. The room will be receiving major updates to its technology to create a vibrant, energizing worship environment conducive to modern worship music. To tell you more about these changes, here is our co-lay leader, Jonathan Brill, who also served on our vision implementation team.
These changes to the Harnish Activity Center and our relocation of the contemporary service to that space will enable us to take worship to the next level and reach more people for Christ. And even though we will be using the Harnish Activity Center for worship on Sunday, it will still be a multi-purpose space used for Wednesday night fellowship dinners, cold night shelters, children and youth ministry, and various large gatherings all throughout the week. The changes also come directly out of the long conversations we have had in implementing our vision plan, and they come just at the right time. Thanks to a generous financial contribution that came to the church long before we thought about moving contemporary worship, we have been able to upgrade the look and feel of the Harnish Activity Center without any impact to our annual budget. The space already looks brand new. God has been giving us more and more clarity that this is the exciting next step for us in contemporary worship.
Forever and ever is Hyde my home.
Indeed, improvements to our worship services are all about reaching new people for Jesus, and we are excited about what these changes will mean in making God's love real to new people. Funds for upgrading the audio and visual capabilities, as well as other equipment, will be fully funded with income over expenses from 2020, meaning zero impact on the 2021 budget. God has been leading us in this direction even before we realized it, and it comes at just the right time. And we know that all of us take worship seriously because we take it so personally. And more importantly, we remember that worship is meant to draw us out of ourselves and connect us to God and to each other. So, here is Pastor Sally, our Minister of Congregational Care, to remind us of why worship is so important.
Widening the reach of God's love in the digital space and in person is something we greatly value. The lessons we learn together in worship teach us how to care and how to serve one another. For it is in worship that we experience something that is beyond ourselves. We experience the power of the living God together, and we are more deeply connected because of it. I'm reminded of a Swedish proverb that says, "A shared joy is a double joy." Yes, indeed, there is great joy in worshiping together. My faith is strengthened by the presence of others worshiping with me, and I hope yours is too. So whether it's online or in person, in a contemporary setting or a traditional setting, all of it is to glorify God and deepen our connections as we seek to follow Jesus by loving God and loving all. Yes, in worship, we come together to celebrate, to praise, and to acknowledge our need for God and one another. And we are all strengthened in our discipleship.
Thank you, Sally. Another ministry that has been a pillar of our church for many years is Open Arms. And we are eager to see how God is leading us to take ministry to our homeless community to an even more significant level. To tell us more about that is Vicki Walker, our Minister of Missions and Outreach.
With these changes to worship, you may be wondering about Open Arms. Fear not. Open Arms will continue as it is, where it is, for the foreseeable future. Our church has a long-term commitment to the poor and to living out the gospel through its mission and outreach ministries. Our community needs us now more than ever, and we will be here serving together. If 2020 has taught us anything, it is the importance of relationships. We have all been impacted by trauma communally, and we can all heal by supporting each other. We need to build trust and resilience. We all have something to give, and we all have something we need. The opportunity before us is to create relationships of mutual support as we serve together. looking beyond status or social class and acknowledging the ways we are all alike and in need of Christian community. The vision implementation process challenged us to think more about how to serve together and deepen our relationships in all of our mission work. As we look for natural connections among partners, we will deepen and widen our impact. Together, we will explore new possibilities at both the Platt Street and the Portico for enhanced community and connections with our neighbors. Imagine a more intentional faith community, coordinating opportunities for employment, job training, housing, mentoring, and most of all, spiritual growth through relationships of mutual accountability. I'm excited about the potential of this year to be one of healing, hope, and wholeness. Jesus reminds us that in serving each other, we are serving Him. I hope you'll join us on the journey of seeing Christ in one another and growing and serving together.
Thank you, Vicki. We are excited about envisioning an open arms ministry that not only provides ministry to homeless persons, but also ministry with and ministry for homeless persons. Our final update is on the Portico. Since we began ministry there over 6 years ago, the Portico has been a dynamic, vibrant place of innovation and outreach, a true spiritual frontier for this church. And to share what lies ahead and what's in store for that campus, here is our minister of the Portico campus, Justin LaRosa.
We have a saying at the Portico, you are loved. We've been living this message and reaching new people in new places in new ways. The Portico serves as a relational bridge, bridging people to God, to the church, and to spiritual practices. The Portico is, in essence, and has been, and will continue to be, a community that's a gift to the city, making disciples through conversation, connection, and community change. And in this next season, we will be intentionally launching and growing a missional community, one that has at its core raising awareness and engaging issues of homelessness, racism, and other areas of social justice. We imagine diverse gatherings of very different people serving, growing, and worshiping together. For example, those who are living in material poverty and those who don't, those with no spiritual connection and those with spiritual maturity. We will seek the welfare of the city, in the words of Jeremiah, by engaging our neighbors everywhere, civic groups, businesses, and not-for-profit agencies. All this complements the existing initiatives, programs, and small groups that are ongoing, and we will strive to strengthen partnerships with those around us. Our missions-oriented community will evolve to facilitate ministry among all people engaged in the community, regardless of how we arrived, moving away from this sense of giver and taker roles. We will minister to one another. So what about worship at the Portico? Worship will eventually resume here at the Portico in a timeline and format to be determined. And it's going to be a natural outgrowth of the kind of missional community that we are uniquely positioned to create.
Thank you, Justin. These are all exciting changes for which God has been leading us throughout the visioning process and even before the pandemic. But these changes are not just in response to COVID. They help us fulfill the vision plan and move us into an incredibly bright future of reaching new people for Jesus as we deepen and widen and unite together. Now, one of the questions you may have is, when? When will we be returning to on-site indoor worship, and when will these changes to the Harnish Activity Center take place? The Ministry Leadership Council approved these plans last January 19th, so we are underway in making the technological upgrades to both the Harnish Activity Center and the sanctuary. Now, when we actually open those spaces for indoor worship is largely contingent on when it will be safe to do so, as determined by the executive team of our Ministry Leadership Council, made up of 6 lay people and 4 staff, who study the latest COVID statistics in consultation with a local county health official. Our online service, traditional service in the sanctuary, contemporary service in the Harnish Activity Center, and eventually worship at the Portico will constitute a tremendous lineup of high-quality worship offerings that will move us into the future. Now, for those accustomed to the 8:30 chapel, the 8:30 sanctuary, and 11 o'clock magnolia, we believe you will find a lot to like about these new services, and we're eager for you to give it a try. And if you have any questions about any of these initiatives, send them via email at questions@hydeparkumc.org. We've also prepared an FAQ page, frequently asked questions, where we've begun answering important questions that have already been raised in the process. All throughout our visioning process, we were guided by the word adapt. And that spirit of adaptation has guided us all along and prepared us for life during and after the pandemic in ways we could not have imagined. In the words of John Wesley, the best of all is God is with us. These are truly exciting days ahead. Thank you, and God bless you.